say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. We will, first of all, take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for allowing this transmission to occur in this manner on this day. Once again, each and every time this is co-created between our respective civilizations, it forms a stronger link, a stronger bridge between your world and our world, and what we have called the association of many worlds. So we thank you for the opportunity to strengthen that link, strengthen that bridge upon which we can one day cross to meet each other in the middle. And that day is not too far away as you count time on your planet. Toward that end of accelerating and strengthening the time of contact between our worlds, we once again invite you to explore your own inner world more deeply. For the more that you learn who you are, then the better it will be in the sense of being your full self, certainly more of your full self when we meet, so that we will know more of who you are, and that you will know more of who you are when you meet us. For we will come to you as fully as we can. And if you are, thus then at that point, not coming to us as fully as you can, we want to make sure that this will not be detrimental for you. So we help to prepare you to discover more of yourself, to explore more of your own universe, so that you can be more integrated, more holistic, more empowered, more creative, more loving, more alive, and that you will know more definitively who and what you are when we meet. Now, we have set up this particular transmission for the idea of discussing what is euphemistically called in your language your soul blueprint. What this generally means is that when you choose to be physical, as many of you know, you will come into physical reality with a general theme that you have decided to play out. It does not always mean that you decide every single moment of your life, or that you are destined to only do certain things. That is not what the soul blueprint means. Although you can create some specific incidents, events, encounters in your life. You can design them, set them up ahead of time for that to come to fruition. You can do that, and sometimes do that. But not every moment. Far from it is laid out ahead of time. You leave yourself an opening throughout your life to make changes as you go, depending upon how much you learn, how much you recognize, how much you realize, how much you integrate. You leave yourself the opportunity at every moment to take the new information and decide where you wish to go, what you wish to do with it, what you want your life to be from that moment forward. The general theme you may have set up for yourself prior to this life will be played out, but the theme is so general that it does not in any way, shape, or form restrict you or limit you in terms of the multitude of the kinds of ways in which you could express or experience that theme. And especially now, at this time upon your planet, many of the themes that you are exploring in these lives are all about waking up to the fact that you have the freedom to choose what you want your life to be, how you want to experience it. Now, we remind you once again that the most important perspective, the most important attitude to have toward your physical reality experience is not to look at how you are doing based on what's going on out there, but how you are doing based on how you respond to whatever's going on out there, no matter what it is. Always remember, there is no out there. There is only here. There is only you. Physical reality is an illusion, a mirror, a reflection. You can use it as a tool in some senses to reflect what is going on within you, what your beliefs are, what your thoughts are, what your emotions are, what your attitudes are, what your definitions are. You can use physical reality as a reflection, but it is not the first step in gauging whether or not you have made a change. The first step in knowing that you have changed is that you respond differently than you used to a situation that may look the same as it did before. As we have said, all situations and all circumstances do not have built-in meaning, and they can serve double duty. The meaning you give it is the effect you get from it. So the first step in knowing your reality has changed is in knowing you have changed with respect to your experience of reality, even if it looks the same as it did before. If you can then respond differently to that reality than you did before, then you know the change is real, the change is within you, the change is owned by you. And when you respond differently than you did before, in a manner that is more of your preference, then, and only then, does your physical reality truly begin to reflect that change in other ways. But remember, it doesn't have to necessarily look much different. The key is whether or not you are getting a different effect in your life than you did before. Because the very same situation, with all the same props and all the same people behaving all the same way as they did before, can still allow you to generate a completely different outcome, a completely different effect, a completely different energy than you did before, just by the fact that you are relating to the situation differently. Because you say you have changed and will respond differently. Because you are now not the same person that you were before, literally. When outer reality needs to look different, it will, as a reflection of the change. Whatever part of the change it needs to reflect differently, it will. But don't go off the outer reflection. Always go off your response. That will determine the difference. And that will determine the outcome. And that will determine the effect. Now, this personality idea that we have discussed many times, and which we will discuss in greater detail this time, is only your outer focusing device. Your personality is really nothing more than a window or a prism through which your consciousness creates the experience called physical reality. Now, that experience is, of course, actually only taking place within you. Again, there is no outside. Nothing out there. Nothing. Just a reflection. Just as there is nothing itself of the image in the mirror, you understand there is really nothing of reality outside you. It is all taking place within your consciousness. But what the personality allows itself to perceive is often built upon not only the beliefs and definitions you have been taught in life to hold most true, to buy into most strongly, but also based upon what is technically called the soul blueprint. What you brought into this life, in a sense, as a theme to explore. So you will always look at everything that happens through the personality. You will always look at everything through that general theme. You will experience it through that general theme. When you choose to be physical and go from a non-physical state into a physical state, in a sense what you do is a kind of crystallization. It's like going from being steam to being water to being ice. You freeze yourselves in a type of pattern. This pattern then is referred to as the soul blueprint. What you brought in with you in general, that you will explore in this life. Now, many of you have similar themes, as we said, in this life, because you're all exploring the ability to be aware and awake of the fact that you are free to choose your reality experience. Whereas in your history, in the past, as you say, you were not aware that you had this choice, that you had this freedom. And even many of you alive on your planet today are unaware that you have this choice, that you have this freedom to choose your life to be what you wish it to be. Many people on your planet still believe that life happens to you instead of happening through you. But it does not happen to you. It comes from you and reflects back to you. And we will get into more understanding of that later on in this transmission when we discuss in depth what we have called the reality generation circuit. The actual mechanism, the circuitry by which you are manifesting your physical reality experience. But first, the blueprint. What is it exactly? What is it made of exactly? What goes into the recipe of your soul blueprint? You have been given some diagrams, some charts that help to illustrate and illuminate this concept. If you will look at the one that shows you the idea of your history, all the different pathways, all the different consciousnesses, all the different lifetimes, all the different experiences of what you call your past that you have brought to your present and will take with you into your future, you can see that you are, as a soul blueprint, shall we say, made up of quite a lot of different kinds of frequencies of energy. Quite a lot of different frequencies of experience. Many of you have begun to become aware in this life of your connections to other times, other places, other experiences, other lives, and so forth. And often wonder, how does this relate to this life? Now, a little bit of an aside before we continue with this. When we have discussions with many of you, often, many people will refer to the idea of these other connections by asking a question, well, Bashar, where do I really come from? Well, of course, the direct answer is to the person actually asking the question is, well, you really come from Earth, obviously, because that's where you are right now asking the question from. But we understand that when they ask the question, where do I really come from? Where do I originate from? We understand what you mean, but we wish to point out that you originate from everywhere, all at once and nowhere. Here and now is where you come from. But the idea is that when they ask, where do I originate from? What they're actually asking is this. What other places and times and lives and experiences am I strongly connecting to from this life? Because that's what you're actually doing. In any given life, because they all exist simultaneously, past, present, future, all exist now. All your so-called past lives are all going on right now with this one simultaneously, in much the same way that all the different programs on your television that you could watch at any given moment are all there at the same time, but you only get the one that your channel is tuned to at any given moment. So it is with this. So it is with the structure of existence. You, the you know yourself to be here on earth, are experiencing this earth life. Other variations of your consciousness are experiencing other lives in other places and other times now at the same moment. But they are separated by the fact that they are different frequencies, in much the same way that television and radio programs on your planet are separated by the fact that they are different frequencies. But they're all there at once. They all exist at the same time. But frequency and resonance is the key. So, from any life, in any life, you form attachments and connections to other lives going on simultaneously that have relevance to this life in terms of the kind of experiences that are being had in those other lives by those other versions of you. Because you know that the experiences they are having are relevant to some of the experiences that you may be having in this life, and, as you say, vice versa. From those lives, they may be tapping into other lives, including this one, from which they can draw upon your experiences. So, I'll give you an example. In a life that you may call a past life, you may be having a great deal of despair and hopelessness in a particular experience that you are having in that life. Then suddenly, for apparently no reason, hope and inspiration hits you, and you realize there is a way out of this. I do not have to lose hope. I can find my way through the dark to the light. And you don't know where that came from or why that hit you, but suddenly you just know things can get better. Well, sometimes that information, that knowledge, that certainty may have come from your guides, may have come from spirit, may have come from a variety of places, but it also may have come from an experience that you're having in another life that shows you there's a way out. Maybe coming from this life now, where you are exploring the idea that you have the freedom to choose your reality. And just that knowledge alone may leak into the other life, may be drawn upon by the other life to know, yes, there is a light at the end of this tunnel. Yes, I don't know where this knowledge comes from. I don't know where this certainty comes from. But I now know I'm not alone. I now know I can do what I need to do. And that inspiration may be coming from you. You may be sending that certainty with your experiences in this life to another of your lives to let them know that they can rely on your experience here and now to let them know they can improve their experience there and then. You are cross-connected to all your other lives, and the ones that stand out are the ones that have relevance for this life. And those are the ones that stand out energetically, vibrationally. Those are the ones that you often refer to when you ask the question, where do I come from? Where is my origin? The strong vibration Now, this also extends to the idea of other dimensions, other civilizations. Some of you say, well, I know I come from the Pleiades, or I come from Arcturus. Again, no. You come from Earth. You come from Earth. You may have lives going on in the Pleiadian systems, in the Arcturian systems, simultaneously, yes. Your oversoul, from which all your lives extend simultaneously, like the fingers on a hand. The oversoul may have lives going on Earth, in the Pleiadian systems, in the Arcturian systems, in the past, in the present, in the future, on different kinds of planets, in different kinds of dimensions, all at once. So you don't come from there as if you were there and now you're here. That's an illusion, linearly. But you may sense, as you gain more and more awareness of who and what you are, and gather more information of the total self together, you may suddenly become aware of the fact that you have other lives in other places simultaneously. But because you're used to thinking in a linear before and after way, you may phrase the question, well, I must come from there because I'm not there now. And you put it in a linear framework. But all you're actually saying is you are awakening to the fact that you have cross connections to other things going on simultaneously and can draw upon that for whatever you wish to use that energy for in this life now. And so, getting in touch with the idea of your soul blueprint, this aspect of it, the recipe, the combination of all these different frequencies, of all these other experiences that are relevant to this life here on Earth, is one strong way to get a handle, as you say, on exactly what your recipe is, where you are cross-connecting to, what kind of energies you are using in this life, in whatever manner you wish to use them, in whatever manner you wish to apply them. Being aware that you have connections to other realities like that is not about disconnecting from the Earth, wishing that you could go back to that reality. No. The reason that you are where you are is because you chose to be where you are in order to act as a conduit to bring that energy to Earth and manifest it in whatever way is relevant to the Earth experience, to allow the Earth to transform. Because every single one of you that are on Earth now, in some way, shape, or form, chose to be on Earth now because you knew that you would be going through a transition and a transformation at this time in your planet's history, and on some level, in some way, you wanted to participate. You wanted to be a part of that because it's a very exciting place to be right now. As you say in your language, it's where it's happening. It is one of the most highly focused places right now that we are aware of in creation for the idea of transition and transformation. It is one of the few places that has gone as deeply into the dark as you have, that we are aware of. And thus then, when a planet, when a civilization, when a collective consciousness can allow itself to experience such a great degree of darkness and yet still find its way to the light, that is special. That is powerful. And believe me, you attract the attention of many other beings from many other dimensions to see how you did it, how you're doing it. Because that's exciting, because that's creation in the making. That's raw creation, going from absolute dark to absolute light. That's creation in a nutshell. So thank you for your strength, for your commitment, for your willingness to go through this transition. It's a powerful thing to have done, and it shows you, just by being where you are, it shows you how powerful you actually are. So never lose sight of that. To be where you are on Earth at this time means you are powerful beings who knew what you were doing when you chose this reality, and even though you have forgotten that you knew what you were doing, you still know what you're doing. Available to you. Take advantage of it. Immerse yourself. And again, please remember how important it is for many of you to act things out. We know, it's no secret to us, that when we have often suggested to many of you that the way to allow yourself greater opportunity for manifestation, greater ability for manifestation, is to actually go and physically act out the scenario that represents your highest joy. And we know, as we said, it's no secret to us that most of you simply don't. Why not? That's the question. That's the true, honest self-assessment that really needs to be investigated. Why not? Because what that simply means is you're not really that passionate about creating that reality. It's not really that important to you. You're not really consumed by it. You're not really obsessed by it. You're not really immersed by it. Why not? That's the question. Why not? That is the most important question you can ask yourself with regard to what you say is your passion. Why am I not more passionate about my passion? Why am I not willing to do the things that everyone says will work? Why not? And that's where you need to come face to face with your own identity, your own physical mind, your own belief systems, your own definitions, your own issues about what it is that you are allowing to define you as a personality. What it is you are choosing to believe in as a personality. Now, you also heard in that recording an idea that we began to discuss last night of your time, and this is the idea of what the job of your physical personality mind actually is and what it isn't. Many of you have been taught to believe that your physical mind is in charge, that it's supposed to control everything and figure out how everything is supposed to happen in order for everything to work. But you heard in the recording, and you heard us say last night of your time, that this is not your job description. Your physical mind is not designed to understand how things happen. It is only designed to perceive how things happened. It is not designed to perceive how things will happen. It is only designed to perceive how things happened. The higher self, that level just above physical reality that is also part of your personal being, is the level of your being that has the ability to understand how things happen. And that's why you heard us say and the secret say, you don't have to worry, you don't have to focus on how something will come about. There is no way for you to know. It's not within the capacity of your physical mind to know that. It's only within the capacity of your physical mind to see how it did occur, but not how it will occur. The knowledge of how it will occur comes from your higher self, not from your physical mind. As we said last night of your time, again, pay attention, very crucial. The higher self conceives. The physical brain receives. The physical personality mind perceives. The physical personality mind does not conceive of anything. The physical mind is not capable of generating an idea. Not one. Not one. Any idea you have ever had has never come from your physical mind. Not one. It can only perceive the result of the idea that was received by the brain from the conception of the higher self. Beginning to understand this relationship will allow you to begin to have a better relationship and an open line of communication with the higher self, and will allow you as physical minds to allow the you that is the higher self to do its job, while the physical mind goes about doing the job it was designed to do. which is to simply focus you in physical reality so that you can perceive and experience the result of what you conceived from the higher self to be representative of your natural truth and joy. So, this knowledge and this understanding and this relationship can allow you to relax and not feel like you have to do so much. It's not your responsibility in that sense as a physical mind to generate these things and figure out how it's all going to happen. As we said last night of your time, we recognize that the physical mind, if it is taught to think it's in charge, can get caught up in the idea of attempting to repeat how something did occur, thinking that what it is perceiving is actually how the next thing needs to occur, when in fact it's not. The idea of attempting to do that will only cause a repetitive cycle, a repetitive loop, that will simply allow you to remain stuck in one particular manifestational level, and it won't advance until you allow yourself to make the leap and let go of how you think it needs to happen and let the higher self show you how it can happen. And then let your physical mind simply perceive how it did happen. So you don't need to carry those bags. You don't need to carry that luggage. It's too heavy. You weren't designed to carry it. If you keep carrying it, you will be exhausted very quickly. You will start dragging. You will say, life is a drag. This doesn't work. I'm not having any fun. Why not? Because you're doing too many jobs. You're not doing the job you were designed to do, only you're also attempting to do the job of the higher self. The higher self is the you that is on the mountaintop, that has the big picture, that has the far view, that can look down at the physical mind in the valley and say, the road is this way. I'm telling you, turn left. I know you think you're supposed to turn right because you think you're in charge, but I'm telling you, turn left. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. You don't have to know how turning left is going to get you to where you want to go. I can see that it is because I'm on the mountaintop. You don't need to know. All you need to do is what? Trust me that I'm telling you the truth. Why would I do anything different? I'm you. When you understand that your higher self is truly an aspect of you, maybe you will be willing to start listening. Instead of thinking, because your physical mind has been taught to think it's in charge and thus doesn't trust anyone else's 2 cents, instead of thinking that your higher self is trying to deceive you, trying to trick you. Can't listen to that guy, that gal. What does he know? What does she know about being down here in the valley? A lot. Because you are also it. And it is also you. What we are simply saying is this is the complete person. Higher self, receiver brain, physical mind, this is the complete persona. And when you compartmentalize yourself, you are not functioning literally, not functioning as a complete person. You are shunting responsibility and the load of the job to only one portion of your personality, only one portion of your persona, the physical mind, and expecting it to take up the slack, which it is not designed to do. You're putting too much weight on it, too much emphasis on it, and it's going to wear the physical you down. To the point where it won't matter what the higher self says about taking this road or that road, you'll just be too exhausted to move. Just can't do it, sorry. The idea is that when you allow yourself to let the higher self pick up that slack by doing the job it was designed to do, your load will be lightened. You will be energized. You will be enlightened. You will feel freer. You will feel like you have more energy than you ever imagined possible. you will be able to move in the direction the higher self is suggesting, because you will then not be weighed down by things that you don't have any business carrying with you. And it will make you feel free, and you can run down the road, and that means as soon as you give up the job that isn't yours, things will accelerate. If you think you need to lug all this luggage down the road, it's going to be slow going, because of many of the definitions and belief systems that many of you have been raised with, that some of those definitions may act as a filtering system that will not really allow you to hear clearly what the underlying fundamental concept here is. We know that many of you get it when we say, follow your passion, act on your passion. And when you have heard others say, follow your bliss, act on your excitement, act on your passion, behave as if. We know that you believe you get that much. But at the same time, in many of the discussions we have had with many of you, we also hear the idea of putting your trust in negativity, of doubting yourself, and saying, well, I am doing my best to follow my passion, but it doesn't seem to be working. Well, I'm doing my best to do this, I'm doing my best to do that. Here's the key that we find, in a sense, is lacking from what the energy is that you're attempting to apply when attempting to follow your passion. It's all well and good to recognize that following your passion, when you recognize it, is the thing to do. But what you may not also understand the importance of is that you also, here it is, are you paying attention? The secret to the secret to the secret. Ears open wide. This is going to sound very simple, but it's very important. When you are acting on your passion, you must also be passionate about being passionate, which many of you are not. When you search for your passion, and then you find something, or you recognize the idea of looking around at any given moment for what excites you the most at that moment, and many of you make an attempt, many of you make an application, many of you do an act, there will still be, according to many of your belief systems, those moments when you go back into, when you choose to go back into many of your negative beliefs, many of your negative feelings, many of your negative thoughts, the things you don't prefer. And this is where it is most crucial to remember that you must also be passionate about being passionate in order to really allow your passion to work. And what this simply means is you don't ever give up. You, at any given moment that you feel yourself waning, look around and use your imagination and create for yourself in that moment an action and a behavior that will take you back into your passion. You must, in that sense, exhibit passion in order to create passion. This is how you bootstrap yourself up the vibrational ladder. To put it in another way, you have heard us say, you have heard them say, when you have a vision, when you have a dream, when you have a picture, when you have a visualization, act it out as best as you can. Do all the things as best as you can to allow yourself to create the frequency of the reality you prefer, even if it isn't literally, physically manifesting yet. This is the willingness to be passionate about being passionate, instead of choosing to feel the idea of the inertia tugging at you from the beliefs you don't prefer. The willingness to act differently regardless of the recognition that you have those beliefs. For example, when you see someone who is truly driven truly passionate about something, about some career, about some reality, about some idea, you literally see that they are hungry for this manifestation. They are driven. They are obsessed with it. The idea is to become obsessed about being obsessed. To do the things themselves for their own sake of creating passion that will then allow you the opportunity to take that and create the vibrational state necessary to attract what you prefer. So, as we said, here's an example. You have now at your disposal, as we said, this tool called The Secret, and many other tools. Doesn't have to be this, but it's readily available to you all in a very convenient form, so it can be this. But as an example, if you are sitting around, looking at your life, looking to be passionate about something, and wondering how to be passionate about being passionate, the idea, again, to recognize is that when you see people who truly are passionate, they are driven at every level, at every stage. So, if it's really that important to you, if it's really that important to you, bless you. If it's really that important to you to create the reality you say you prefer, you will do what it takes. You will do anything. You will be hungry to create a vibration of passion within you all the time. Which means that if you have any kind of permission slip or tool available to you, you will use it as often as you can. You will inundate yourself with it until there can be no other thought, until there is no other choice. To put it in pragmatic terms, if you find yourself one day feeling that your energy is waning, listen, put on your headphones and listen to The Secret again. If the next day you find your energy is waning, put on your headphones and listen to it again. And again, 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 until you get it. Until it sinks in, until it becomes second nature, until it becomes your first thought, until you don't think any other way. Inundate, immerse yourself in all the things that are of that nature, to the exclusion of all other techniques, all other offerings, all other tools. If you're really passionate about something, and passionate about being that passionate, you will do what it takes. You will allow yourself to be completely submerged and obsessed with the very idea of creating the state itself that is representative of the reality you prefer. Now, you don't have to do this. It's up to you. But what we are saying here now, and what we will be repeating throughout this particular transmission, is the recognition that whatever stage, whatever level of frequency, whatever level of commitment, whatever level of drive, whatever level of hunger you decide you choose to have for being passionate is completely what will determine the level of reflection you get, the level of effect you get. So if you say to yourself, I don't have to listen to that again, I already know it, still not working for me, I'm still not happy, still not getting the reality vibration, still not creating the state of being I want, but I don't have to listen to that again, then that's the state you will remain in. When you Remember a time when you became passionate about something, anything. You couldn't get enough of it. Every day, every waking thought, you ate it, you drank it, you breathed it in. You looked for anything that had to do with that thing, to learn more, to feel more, to absorb more, to immerse yourself, surround yourself more with that idea. The idea is that in and of itself, that activity in and of itself of immersing yourself in a passionate state is paramount, is very important to the generation of attracting all the things that are then representative of that passion. So if you're not going to be passionate about being passionate, you are going to remove for yourself a very strong stepping stone, a very strong connective link to attracting the things themselves that are representative of your passion. Does this make sense to you? All right. Now we understand, and we know you understand, that even with this knowledge, there will still be portions of your mind, portions of your physical mind going, oh no, that's just too much. So be it. That's your choice. But we are here to tell you that everything you need to know and everything you have learned from us is being restated in this work, and you have it. I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. Thank you. We are engaging in this transmission this day of your time to discuss the principles, concepts, ideas that you have just listened to in this particular collective work that you have labeled on your planet, The Secret. We recognize that many of you have listened to this work. Many more will be listening to this work. This, of course, for many of you familiar with us, will contain many ideas and principles that will be familiar to you. Concepts that we have discussed and many other beings have discussed in a variety of ways for many years. Regardless of what might seem to be slight terminological differences, slight variations in presentations, you can sense, if you pay attention, that the principles are identical. The idea here to pay attention to most is that your civilization has arrived in its evolution of consciousness at a place and a time where a compilation like this, where a work like this can be created, has been created, and is spreading among your people. This simply indicates that you now have at your disposal, at your fingertips, a tool that you have created collectively from your collective consciousness that is designed, as we spoke of last night of your time, to function as a very, very strong and general representative permission slip to allow you to give yourselves permission to become more of who you are. In listening to that recording, the idea is to allow yourself to treat it, if you will, as a meditation, and to allow yourself to recognize what is familiar and to lock onto what is not and incorporate those ideas in one overall, comprehensive, and cohesive arrangement of these concepts that have been being discussed for many years. We congratulate your civilization for having arrived at a place where now this kind of idea can be produced in your society and can be met with resounding reception, for many, many beings find themselves attracted to this. And you have seen this demonstrated on many levels of your media, where this idea is not only talked about in this format, but you are witnessing many other similar formats coming up from many different people who now are also recognizing these ideas are at the core of how to attract, how to create, how to manifest, how to experience the reality you prefer, that you believe is most harmoniously aligned with the being that you prefer to be, with your true natural self. There are no discrepancies between this work and anything we have said. If you feel that there are, this is simply terminological and semantic. We recognize that they may be using slightly different words, but in your soul and in your heart, you know they are saying exactly the same thing we have been saying for 23 orbits of your time. The idea is that when they say, your thoughts will create this, your thoughts will create that, you know what they are saying is, your beliefs are doing this. Just because they use the word thought does not mean the concept is different. Do not make a difference where none exists. This is our first recommendation. When you listen to these ideas, allow yourself to bring to bear what you know to be true, and apply the interpretation necessary to bring the way they are saying it into focus and into alignment with what you know to be true in principle. It doesn't matter that the words may be slightly different. It's the same idea. Identical. Identical. Now, the one thing that is also additionally wonderful about this is that you now have this available to you on a daily basis. And we would suggest that for those of you that may feel that you find it difficult to, quote-unquote, maintain a connection with these ideas, we would suggest that you avail yourself of this tool every single time, any single time you feel your focus waning, you feel yourself doubting, you feel yourself creating negativity. You have this now at your disposal in what for you is a technologically convenient form. And here really is the crux of the issue. How interested are you in changing your life? Really? Because again, as was said there, and as we have said for 23 orbits, your behavior, your actions are the key. You have heard in the segment that you just listened to, the individuals say, well, here is the secret to the secret. And they then discuss the idea about state of being, that you can simply choose to be happy for its own sake. And you can. We have said this many times, without needing any other reason to do so. But now we would also like to share with you that there is also another secret to the secret. And if you wish, as an addition to what has been said in your recording, I could say then that there is a secret to the secret to the secret. Now, it's not that this was not said over and over and over again by us in the recording and by many other people. But it was said in ways that may not allow you to recognize it for what it is. It was said in general ways. It was said in illustrative ways. It was said in anecdotal ways. But now we are going to tell you very plainly. There is an underlying concept here that many of you may be missing out on because it hasn't been said plainly. Because we understand that when you drop what isn't yours, things will speed up because now you're not carrying extra weight. Things will accelerate. The paradox here is that because the physical mind has been taught to think it's in charge and has to figure out how everything is going to happen, it actually slows things down, even in the face of wanting things to speed up. It's doing exactly the opposite of what it actually really wants to have happen by taking on too much weight. So by letting that go and allowing yourself to function as the whole being and trusting the how to the higher self and not thinking about it, not worrying about it in the physical mind as to how you're going to get where you know you want to be, then you will allow there to be balance on all levels of your being. Things will flow in that positive direction representative of your natural self because you will be behaving as your true, interconnected, holistic, natural self. This, when people talk about the idea of letting go, when they talk about the idea of surrender, this is what they're talking about. Simply surrender to being who you actually are instead of who you've been taught to think you're supposed to be. This is what you are now realizing in this new age of transformation on your planet. That you're not alone. That the compartmentalized you that you heretofore thought was the totality of your being is in fact nothing but a small piece. And that you actually have other portions of yourself that you could be using, that you could be allowing to carry some of the load with you, but which you have refused to believe can happen because of the way your personality mind, your physical mind has been taught to think about what it's supposed to do, about what its responsibilities actually are. And thus then, once the physical mind has taken on this much weight, has taken on this much more job than it was designed to do, and it feels tired, and it feels stressed, and it feels weighed down, what's the next step after that? Victimization, resentment. It starts dissolving and devolving and breaking down because it cannot carry the load. And once it starts breaking down thinking, this is supposed to be working and it's not, it now feels betrayal from the universe. The universe isn't supporting me, it's not working for me. No, you're not working for you. You're not working for you because you're working too hard for you. Lighten up on yourself. The universe does not expect you to have to struggle. It does not expect you to have to, in any way, shape, or form, suffer. Challenges, yes, but those are exciting. Activity, yes, but that's exciting. Struggle, suffer, no. There is no expectation on behalf of the universe that you should have to struggle and suffer to be yourself. All the struggling, all the suffering, all the doubt, all the fear comes from the misunderstanding of who you are, and thus resisting your natural self because you're afraid to give up that control from the physical mind to the greater self for which it was designed. And when you thus then don't do that and take it all on yourself and start slogging down the road, very heavy under the burden of things you have no business carrying, comes the victimization, the sense of fear, the sense of betrayal, the sense of being alone, the sense of being cut off, the sense of being disconnected, the resentment, the hate, self-loathing, lack of deservability. All these issues stem from not allowing your full self to carry the load. All of it. Bless you. There are, as we said, Now, many more different, shall we say, permission slips being created by many different people with regard to ideas such as abundance and living your passion and so on and so forth. They are all saying the same thing. Choose whichever one seems to work best for you. But when you make a choice as to what permission slip is most reflective and most representative of what you believe works best for you, then take that information and inundate and immerse yourself in it to the point where you are truly exhibiting a passion for being passionate. And thus then you will find that you will infuse yourself when you give up the weight that doesn't belong to you and you infuse yourself with a passion for being passionate. The levels of synchronicity will explode in your life to such a degree that you will find staggering, miraculous, enlightening, uplifting, levitating. You will be flying in many different ways, accelerating, opening up, feeling the love that has always been there, unconditional.
Well, let's say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. First of all, once again, we thank each and every one of you for your participation in the co-creation of this interaction and allowing this transmission to occur. This day of your time, this transmission is part 2, as you call it, of a 3-part transmission. Last night of your time, in your time, moments ago to us, we spoke about the idea of 15 minutes and counting, wherein we described the idea of the plasticity of the neurological net of the brain, and how every thought, every idea, every feeling, every belief, every definition changes, literally changes the pathways, the neurological pathways of the brain, and how, in what we are about to transmit, the information therein can allow you more efficacy in taking those changes and forming those changes along certain vibrational lines to instill certain pathways that will become more superconductive and hyperconductive, to allow you to become a more refined antenna, to allow the brain to become a more refined receiver of the downloads from the higher mind, so that the physical mind, in having that brain rewired into a more receptive, more clearly receptive antenna, then the physical mind can take what it perceives as more representative of the vibration of the download from the higher mind, and you can be more in accord, more in alignment, more in agreement with the idea of the guidance of the higher mind. In understanding that it takes about 15 of your minutes from the beginning of the rewiring for that rewiring in the brain to go from a plastic state to once again a crystallized state and hardwire itself with the new information. This transmission has been designed, and later on the holotope experience specifically has been designed to allow, during that plastic state, when it is going from rewiring to hardwiring, to be imbued with the appropriate frequency to ensure as best as possible that when it is hardwired, it retains the appropriate vibration that will allow your brain to become a clearer receiver and an antenna for the download vibration from the higher mind. But before we get to that point, in our 3rd part of the transmission, we would now like to examine and explore with a kind of an X-ray approach the idea of what beliefs are, what it is you are specifically looking to change. And this is why we have entitled the idea Brick Walls and Beliefs, because we understand that very often when you have a belief and you wish to change it, you say you prefer to change it. Sometimes we know that many of you experience a great degree of difficulty in allowing that belief to change. So what we are going to examine today is the actual nature of, the actual structure of beliefs, so that perhaps by gaining some insight into the actual structure of the belief, you will understand how it is organized to perpetuate itself, And you will perhaps also gain greater understanding in understanding that how that organization works and how you can, in a sense, break it down, how you can deal with the different components of the belief, how you can recognize the different tricks, in a sense, that negative beliefs have in their toolkit to perpetuate themselves and make it seem as if it is difficult or maybe even impossible to change that negative belief. The idea, first and foremost, as we have discussed before, of course, is that when you attach certain kinds of beliefs to your motivational mechanism, you are then automatically propelled, and immediately propelled in the direction of reinforcing that belief. And the idea of the motivational mechanism is, again, quite simplistic. You are always motivated by the same mechanism to do whatever it is you choose to do. Always, without exception. You only have, really, two basic motivations that are really simply different sides of one motivational mechanism. Your motivational mechanism is simply that you will always, immediately move in the direction of what it is you perceive to be or define to be more pleasurable. You will always, and immediately move away from what you define to be or perceive to be more painful. The key herein is the idea of what it is you define, what it is you believe, what it is you perceive to be pleasure and pain. Many of you say that you, in a sense, intellectually recognize what it is you prefer, and yet you do not necessarily understand why it is you do not choose it, why it is you do not always act on it. This comes down to the motivational mechanism and recognizing that if you had a positive belief system attached to that so-called preference, you would immediately choose it. And if you are not choosing it, if you are not behaving in that direction, if you are not acting on it, what that immediately tells you without exception is there must be a negative belief attached to your actual preference that is making you see it in a light that makes it not something you actually prefer to choose. So the important thing is to find out what belief you have attached to the idea of your so-called dream, your so-called preference, that makes it seem to be anything but your preference. And once you find out what belief that is that you have attached to that preference, you will know immediately why you are not choosing it. Many individuals will actually remain in a painful state, even over the idea of what they say they prefer to choose, because of the belief systems they have attached to the thing that they say is representative of their passion, which then makes their passion actually seem more painful of a choice than the pain they are already choosing. Many times it is as simple as fear of the unknown, not wanting to move forward in a direction that is unfamiliar to you and staying with the pain just because the idea of the pain being familiar makes it seem as if that familiarity, that pain and that familiarity is actually preferable to the idea of the fear of the unknown, and therefore you remain in the pain, as painful as it is, just because it's something that you know, as opposed to something that you don't, if you have a belief that says that unknown is to be feared. It is as simple as that very often. But it requires of you the ability, the willingness to examine and explore why you have those beliefs and why you have attached them to that motivational mechanism and why you have attached them to your preference in that manner. One of the things we will also be discussing in this segment is the whole concept of, in a sense, what you call manifestation. Now, let us provide you a slightly different idea and understanding of the concept of manifestation. Because many of you, when you think about the idea of attempting to manifest something, bring it into your reality, make it appear, solidify it, crystallize it, make it experiential, are coming from a point of view, also definitionally and belief system related, that it is something that does not exist in your reality, that you are attracting into or bringing into your reality, that somehow it is ephemeral and non-physical, and you have to somehow make it solid, make it appear, make it real. That is not the case. What it is that is representative of your preference and what you call your desires to manifest already exists in your reality. It is already manifest. The idea of manifestation is not bringing something that doesn't exist into existence or attracting something over there and bringing it over here. The idea is that what you desire to manifest is already here, already existent, already real. Manifestation is the process of giving yourself the ability to realize, to perceive that it is already here. You do not have to do any magical thing to make it come into existence. It is already existent. It's already within your sphere of reality. It is just that your belief system makes it invisible to you. So manifestation is not the process of actually conjuring something out of nothing. It is the process of making the invisible visible. And that simply requires an alteration of perception. That's all it takes. So we are going to be talking about that idea as well. And let us begin right there. The idea of one of the mechanisms of manifestation that allows the invisible to become visible is something that uses the power of paradox very strongly. We often talk about the idea of paradox as the recognition that you are in a very powerful place, right in the center of your power. Because what to you may seem paradoxical, what to you may seem contradictory, two opposing ideas that cannot necessarily seem to coexist, but do coexist, tells you right then and there that there must be a middle ground from which they both come. And that middle ground, that balance point, is your place of power from which you have generated the apparently paradoxical and apparently contradictory concepts. But because you can perceive them both, it tells you that just the perception of those things alone tells you that you are actually in the center of those things, that they come from the center of your being, and that you're simply seeing reflections of the polarity, expressions of the polarity of creation. But polarity within you combines and interacts in a very specific way to generate your true perfect place of balance and perfect place of power. So when you see paradox, rejoice, because it is telling you that you're standing right at the center of your creative self and have the ability to thus then manifest and transform and make the invisible visible very quickly. Let us explain a little bit more clearly about the idea of the paradoxical nature of the mechanism of manifestation. Many of you have been taught to think about the idea of manifestation as an issue of intention, and as an issue of focus, as an issue of concentration. And in a sense, this is accurate. However, a very important point is often left out, or at the very least, sometimes this point is spoken of independently, and so no connection is made to the idea as a whole concept. The two seemingly paradoxical issues here are intention, focus, and concentration, and conversely on the other side, what you have often heard in many metaphysical and New Age information sources, the idea of surrender and letting go. These two things are not diametrically opposed. They are not mutually exclusive. They work together in a whole mechanism. In other words, the secret, one direction of the paradoxical mechanism is the idea of intention, focus, and concentration, and then, after that has been done, letting go and surrendering and letting the intention, focus, and concentration do its job on higher levels. Working these two things, linking these two things together gives you the entire mechanism of manifestation, or at least one direction of the energy. We will discuss the other direction in a moment. But first, let us again amplify this concept. And again, understand this connects to the notion of the 15-minute time span in the following way. Any time that you have a desire or a preference for a manifestation, the idea, yes, is that in a sense it must be representative of your passion. It must become your world. The intention, the focus, in a sense, the concentration, is there if that is representative of your passion. Because when something is representative of your passion, you're automatically focused on it. You automatically intend it. You're automatically concentrating all of your attention on that idea, because that's what passion does. If you are passionate about something, there is no other choice. There is no other consideration. All other things fall by the wayside. That is a true description of the idea of being in your passion. There simply is no other choice. So there is automatic focus, automatic intention. If then, in what you call a peaceful state or a meditative state or a focused state, you allow yourself to image that passionate idea, that manifestation that is desired, and feel it, and build that energy up in your energy, in your emotions, in your passion. Build that energy to a peak over the course of simply 15 minutes and no longer, sometimes even less, when you get proficient at it. You don't always need all 15 minutes, but 15 minutes at the most is all that is necessary for you to activate the idea of the wheels, of the gears, and put it in motion with regard to the idea of allowing the invisible to become visible. But when you do that, when you build it to a peak over the course of a few minutes or 15, the next step is to completely and utterly let it go. Forget about it. Stop caring about it. Let it go. Surrender it utterly to the higher self. Let the higher self now do the job. You see, physical reality, while apparently complicated at times, is actually not extremely complex. In a sense, it is actually built on very simple principles, and you don't actually have to do very much to get the ball rolling. So, because your physical mind, as we have said a few times, is not designed to understand how things are going to happen, how things are going to manifest, the how is the purview of the higher mind, and because the physical mind does not actually have the capacity, the capability to understand, it is not designed to understand how that's going to happen, all it needs to do is flip the switch and let the higher mind do the how, do the things that are necessary to cause the synchronicities in your life that need to be there, and the downloads and the inspiration that need to come to you to allow the invisible to become visible, to allow the manifestation to occur. So all you need to do is do it a little bit for no longer than 15 minutes, bring that up to a full peak of passion, a full peak of imagination, a full peak of visualization, however it is you wish to do it, with that intensity, that concentration, and that focus, and then utterly, utterly, utterly let it go. Now, we understand again that because of certain negative beliefs, many of you find it difficult to actually let it go. But that is very important, because without the letting go side, you don't actually have the whole mechanism engaged. It is important to understand that the intensity, focus, and concentration must be paired with the surrendering and the letting go to actually have the whole mechanism of manifestation. This is using the power of paradox built in to this idea, to this process, to this permission slip. Letting go means you really know that the higher mind, it's doing its job, and you can now relax. The physical mind can relax. It doesn't need to do anything else. It is not required, nor is it capable of doing anything else. So really, 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 when you know this, you can allow your mind, your physical mind, to just let it go, knowing it is in good hands, in a sense, and get on about your day focusing on the next most exciting thing you are capable of taking action on. At the same time, again, you must be clear, as we already said, about your motivations to ensure that what it is you are focusing on, what it is you are surrendering to, is truly representative of your highest passion, instead of something that is simply being labeled as such to actually act as an avoidance of what your highest passion actually could be. This is where you have to really be clear, again, about the idea of what beliefs you are dealing with. Because many of you often fool yourselves and trick yourselves through the negative belief system into thinking that you're acting on your excitement, when in fact you're actually acting out of anxiety and covering it up because you're afraid to look at the idea of what it is that actually does excite you because of all the negative beliefs you've attached to it. So clearing out your motivational mechanism and finding out what beliefs you have attached to it is the primary, first, and fundamental process that is required in order to actually use the tool of manifestation in a clear and concise and precise manner. Once you have your motivation clear and you know that what you are focusing on is truly representative of your passion, then you will find that this mechanism of manifestation works very, very strongly, very well, and often very rapidly. But the idea, again, is that you cannot worry it there. You cannot make it happen. You cannot insist that it must happen at a certain time and in a certain way, because then you are once again putting conditions on it. You are not allowing yourself to truly let it go. You are not allowing thus then the higher mind to do its job. You're actually blocking the entire process by keeping, in a sense, the control, or trying to keep control of the situation within the physical realm. And the physical realm is not designed to handle energy in that way. It does not have the ability. It does not have the capacity to do the job of the higher self. It simply doesn't work in physical reality that way. It would be as if you dove down under the sea with your breathing apparatus, and then instead of allowing yourself to rise to the surface and taking your mask off, taking your breathing apparatus off, and taking a deep breath up there to go back into that realm, it is as if you are insisting, by trying to control it in physical reality, it is as if you are taking off your mask, taking off your breathing apparatus underwater, and inhaling, and wondering why you start choking, and wondering why you cannot see that far anymore, why things are suddenly murky and muddy, and why you are suddenly drowning. The idea is you must allow yourself, your whole self, to participate in this idea of creation of your reality. And you are not a whole self. You are not a whole person unless you allow the physical mind and the higher mind to work in concert. We know many of you have been taught to think that the idea of the higher mind, being that it is non-physical, is somehow not really a part of who you are as a person. It's something else, somewhere else, on another plane, on another level, and has nothing to do with what you're supposed to be doing as a personality in terms of guiding yourself through life. But that is not the case. In order to actually move through physical reality as a whole person, you need the back and forth. You need to work in concert. You need a partnership between physical mind and higher mind so that you can actually function as a whole person and use each component in the way it was designed to be used, so that you can then allow the mechanism of manifestation and the creation of your reality to work in an effortless and aligned way with the idea of the vibration of yourself as a total being. So, the idea of the power of paradox in this manifestation mechanism is also working in the opposite direction. For as you allow yourself to have the intensity of focus on your highest passion, and you allow that energy to build up to a pinpoint, a white-hot pinpoint of concentrational focus and imagery and energy and emotional feeling, bringing it to that fever pitch, and then as you let it go, the idea that is moving in the opposite direction is the issue of concentration and expansion. The idea here is that as you actually concentrate, in a sense, as you bring things down to a pinpoint, you're actually raising the frequency, you're actually expanding the frequency of your energy by focusing it down to such a small focus, small passionate pinpoint. You're actually expanding your energy in a sense, building it up. In that sense, reaching out, letting it expand, because you are now focused solely on your passion, more in alignment with your true core natural self, so your energy will expand. As you let go, in a sense, the energy then collapses back to your physical self. But as it has done so, it is similar to what your physicists call the collapse of the waveform. What this means is, as you focus and as you concentrate, and as you expand and expand and expand your energy bubble, you are containing all probable ways of manifestation that are best for you, that could occur. You're expanding your probability net. And as soon as you then surrender and let it go, and that energy bubble collapses back down to your immediate reality, you are allowing the bubble to then automatically choose the highest probabilities that will actually help you bring the manifestation into your awareness. So this is the paradoxical mechanism, is as you focus, as you concentrate, as you, in a sense, narrow your field of view on the thing that you are most passionate about, you actually expand your bubble of energy probabilities. And as you let it go, as you release, as you surrender, you actually allow the bubble to collapse down to the most likely ways, the paths of least resistance that are there for you to bring the kind of synchronicity into your life that will most likely, most probably allow for that manifestation to occur in the most effortless, most rapid way possible.
All right, I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. All right, we'll take that as an okay. We thank you all with deep appreciation for the co-creation this day of your time of this interaction and the allowance of this transmission. Our unconditional love to you all, and let us begin. We have titled this transmission, Sedona, the Interdimensional City. The idea being that because of the nature of the vortex of energy that exists in this area, it is connected to many different realms, many different realities, many different dimensions. And so we would like to discuss the ways in which you may use this portal, this energy, to connect to more of yourself, bring more of yourself through, that being your greater self, not just your physical minds, but connecting more readily with your higher mind, with your greater being, with parallel realities, with Source, and your guides, and all who are willing to be of assistance to you. The first thing we would like to explain is the idea of that connection, because we know many of you ask for assistance, ask for help, pray for guidance, but I remind you, prayer is not about asking for something you don't have. Prayer is a state of grace, a state of being, in which you express appreciation and gratitude for what already exists. Because you have all the help you can possibly be given already. It's about allowing yourself to be more aware of the help you are already receiving, rather than asking for something you are not being given. Keep it in present tense, for that's where everything exists, in the right here and the right now. We have before talked about the idea, just to use a similar Earth analogy, of the AAA formula. When you need assistance, you call AAA. But this AAA is the idea of acknowledging what you have, being in appreciation for what you have, and allowing what needs to happen next to happen. So acknowledging, appreciating, and allowing are the states of being that represent your ability to allow you to know you are receiving what you need and to be more open to perceiving it. It is the allowance that allows you to perceive what it is you are already being given, because you are always being given it. It is never withheld, not for one moment. As we have said, based on the idea you call the law of attraction, it isn't wrong that you have to be of the vibration to attract what you need, but many people have a little bit of a misunderstanding as to what that really means. And so, as we have explained, your core frequency, your true essential vibration, is already attracting everything you need as powerfully as it can be. So it's not about having to learn that particular frequency. You're already radiating that frequency every moment of your existence. It is pouring out of you. The idea is to stop getting in the way of allowing it to attract what you need. So it's not about having to learn something you're not already doing. It's about letting go of those fear-based or negative belief systems or erroneous assumptions and definitions that are impeding your core vibration from bringing you what you need in life. And notice that we have said what you need, not what you want. Sometimes your wants and needs can coincide, but very often the want may be the result of a misunderstanding in the ego structure to make you think you need something that really isn't necessarily as relevant as you might think or as you might wish. But if you have what you need, your lives will be fulfilled. You will live a life of joy, because the needs are what will support you in every endeavor that is representative of your truth, of your passion, of your true path in life. If you have what you need, you have everything. Again, sometimes if you are in touch and in tune with your true self, then your wants and needs may coincide. And at the very least, if you're going to want what you need, because that will give you everything. The idea now of being in this vortex, it is a magnifier and an amplifier of what you bring with you into it. Positive, neutral, and negative. It is very important in this reflective mirror, this magnifying mirror, to really deep down examine what you hold to be true, why you hold it to be true, and really with honesty deeply investigate yourself, your beliefs, your definitions, and ponder why you believe it is important to hold on to something. So allow yourself the opportunity to really get to know yourself. That ancient wisdom, know thyself, is the key. And in knowing yourself as clearly as you possibly can, you can more easily discern what it is that is truly important for you to hold on to as a belief, to understand why you're holding on to it, to understand why you may be holding on to things that don't necessarily serve you. Because once again, allow us to explain briefly what we call the motivational mechanism in all of you. Every single one of you operate this way. There are no exceptions. Not even you. The idea is it works this way. You will all immediately, instantly move in the direction of what you believe serves you. You will all immediately, automatically, and instantly move away from what you believe does not serve you. So if you can observe that you may be choosing things that do not serve you, If you understand the motivational mechanism, then you will understand that the only way that could happen, the only way that can happen, is if you have a belief that says that what it is that doesn't serve you is somehow better than the alternative. That you may have a fear that if you move in the direction of your truth, your passion, that something worse will happen than what you're already experiencing. And if you have that belief attached to your motivational mechanism, you will do everything in your power to avoid moving in the direction of your joy. Because your belief says that something worse will happen and that is something you should move away from as far as you possibly can. So you have to dig down deep in your self-investigation to understand why you would believe such a thing, why you would believe that your passion would contain anything that is so contradictory to the idea of experiencing your true self in a joyful way. Because that's a contradictory definition to the idea of your passion, of who you truly are. Because what is your passion? As we have explained, your passion is the result of a communication from your higher mind saying, this is who you are. This is the next step on your path. Your non-physical higher mind, that portion of your whole being that is in spirit, is sending you energy messages all the time. But they come in the form of energy because it is coming from a non-physical reality. Your physical body translates that energy message as the sensation you call passion, excitement, curiosity, attraction, and love. So when you translate the messages from your higher mind into the sensation and the experience of passion, then you know that that's what your higher mind is telling you. This opportunity, this situation contains this excitement, this passion, because this is who you are. This is the next step on your path. This is your truth. If you are willing to act on it, then you are responding to the higher mind saying, yes, I heard you, and I'm willing to allow you to guide me. And if you thus act on it, you have responded to the higher mind with the language of physical reality, which is not words and not thoughts, but actions. Physical actions are the language of physical reality. It is representative of the commitment to take action on what the higher mind has told you is your next step in life. And once you do that, you set up the dialogue with your higher mind so that it can send you more opportunities to act on your passion. For why should it send you more opportunities if you haven't even acted on what it's already sent you? The idea is then you cause the ball to start rolling, and then it can gain momentum, and then the higher mind can bring you more opportunities and bigger opportunities to act on your passion. And it doesn't matter if it starts small. If you do not immediately know what your passion is, allow yourself to start simply in daily ways. At any given moment, you have a number of options available to you. Very simple daily things. You can take a walk, you can read a book, you can talk to a friend, you can eat a meal. Just pick what has even the tiniest bit more excitement than any other choice and act on that first to the best you can. No insistence, no assumption as to the outcome. See where it leads, stay in a positive state, examine any belief systems that are fear-based and negative that come up surrounding it, and just keep doing that. If you find you cannot tell the difference between two things, flip a coin. Because then it won't matter. Sometimes the coin flip may reveal to you what your true attraction is. Oh, heads I'll do A and B I'll do tails this way. And if you flip it and it goes tails, you go, oh darn, I wish it was heads. Now you know, move in that direction. But if they're truly equal in excitement, truly equal in your ability to take action on them, then it doesn't matter which one you choose first, because one of the things that is connected to the idea of your passion is the organizing principle of synchronicity. And if that is not the correct path for you at that moment, synchronicity will create situations, circumstances, and opportunities that will turn you right around to the path that is. It's automatic. That's how it functions. It guides you. And I remind you that even though there is such a thing as negative synchronicity, so to speak, where you can compound the idea of fear-based beliefs and have a downward spiral in that direction, there are also two types of positive synchronicity. What we will call green light synchronicity and red light synchronicity, just like your traffic situation. The green light synchronicity says, here's an opportunity, and it says, go, act on it. You can act on it, and you can move forward. Red light synchronicity says, this may be representative of your passion, but don't take that action right now. No matter how hard you try, there's nothing you can seem to do about acting on that thing. If it's not you that is preventing yourself from doing that, then it is simply red light synchronicity saying, not yet. You may need to go over here to gather information and experience that will bring you back around to the proper timing when you can act on this, but not right now. So if you've done everything you can to act on something and it just doesn't seem to be moving forward, then trust that as long as you are honest with yourself and you're not the one dampening that excitement, that red light synchronicity is telling you that this is not exactly the step you need to take at this moment. Go with what you can act on. Go with what green light synchronicity says you can act on this, and it will actually lead you where you need to be, so that when you wind up there, these other things that are all interconnected, all representative of your passion and your excitement, can then possibly come to fruition. But I caution you this. Never assume that the form that your excitement comes in is the form that must come to fruition, because you don't know why it came to you in that form. It might play out, but sometimes, because of the nature of the belief systems that exist within your physical mind, sometimes synchronicity and excitement have to present themselves to you in a certain way, just because that's the way that will get you to actually take an action, get you excited enough to move so that you can wind up where you need to be, so that what really needs to happen can actually happen more easily. And that's why you don't have any insistence or assumption about why your excitement comes in the form that it does. So you don't have to assume that it's rigidly fixed, so that surprises can come and lead you exactly where you need to be led. Does that all make sense to you so far? Yes. All right. We tell you these things in advance of the conversation that we are now going to have about the idea of the vortex being an interdimensional access point for you, because when you clarify yourself and when you understand how the formula that we've shared with all of you really works, and you use it very precisely, then the idea of the amplification and magnification of this energy vortex can really work to your advantage and really allow you to experience a great deal of acceleration in the direction of your true path. Now, let's talk a little bit about the idea of how you use already parallel realities to create the experiences in your life. You already have what you consider to be a timeline to your life. You linearly usually think of it going from A to Z. I'm going from the past to the future, through the present. But the present is all there is. The past and the future, in a sense, are just probable illusions, probabilities that haven't yet really solidified until you solidify yourself in the present, until you define yourself clearly in the present, in whatever way, shape, or form you might do that, positively or negatively, or even neutrally. I remind you of this so that you understand that while you may think linearly that the future is not fixed, neither is the past. Listen carefully. What you define yourself to be in the here and now, which is all there is, in the present, right now, not only changes the probabilities of the future, but changes your past as well. Why? It works this way. Because you're experiencing the idea of physical reality, because you're experiencing the idea of cause and effect, you're separating them out. Oh, this causes this effect to happen. This must happen first so that this can happen. Because that's the way you experience the concept of space and time, because you have created physical reality to be viewed and experienced that way, anytime you make a change in your definition of who you are in the present, anytime you become literally a different person, a new person, your linear reality has to shift in a way that says, well, if you're a new person now, we have to alter the past to become the kind of past that would have led to who you are in the present. We have to change the cause so that the effect makes sense. So you're actually changing your past all the time, literally, not metaphorically, literally. Now, you may not know that all the time, because again, as soon as you make that adjustment in the present, the past is going to bring with it the idea that that's always been your past, because that's what's going to make sense to you linearly. Even though 2 minutes ago you may have had a completely different past, you may not know that, because in order to function in physical reality in the present, you have to remember the past that makes sense for who you are now. And this is dynamically changing all the time. Now, because you are expanding your consciousness, because you are allowing yourself to be a little bit more aware of more of yourself, some of you are beginning to experience what you have labeled the Mandela effect, which is the idea that you are actually aware of the fact that the past has changed, and that one person can remember one past and another person can remember a completely different past for the exact same event. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes it is just a slip of your memory. But sometimes it is the idea of recognizing that you have shifted the past in order to truly define who you are in the present, and that two people can have a memory of absolutely different histories, and both of them are real, because all parallel realities exist at the same time. Everything exists here and now. When your scientists begin to understand consciousness a little bit more thoroughly, they will understand that in their search for a so-called unified theory of physics, they have to include the idea of not only reducing all of the physical phenomenon in reality to a single idea that explains all of the effects, they have to reduce space and time as well. So, reducing the idea of space to its ultimate will be the idea of a single dimensionless point. Reducing the idea of time to its ultimate will be a single timeless moment. You can call the single dimensionless point here and the single timeless moment now. So everything becomes existing here and now, in lay terms. But once you do that, once you truly start to wrap your minds around the understanding that anything you can imagine in every parallel reality all exists simultaneously, all going on right now, you start to realize that what that really means is that there is only that single point of here, only that timeless moment of now, and therefore anything that you perceive as a different place, anything that you perceive as a different moment, is actually the same place and the same moment from a different point of view. Because there is only one place here and only one moment now. So everything you experience that appears to be stretched out into volumes of space and moments of time are all the same place and the same time from another vantage point, another perspective of that same here and now. That's how you create the idea and the experience of physical reality. Because I remind you of this very powerful recognition. Everyone, everything, You, us, all beings of any nature, your natural state is spirit. That's where you are right now. Right now. You have never left spirit. That's where you reside. That's your natural state. You are pretending to have left. You are dreaming that you have left. And that is called physical reality. Physical reality is a dream that your greater spirit, a part of your greater spirit, is having right now while you are in spirit. You're there right now. This is why, very often, when people pass on into spirit, you wonder, why don't they come back and say hello? Sometimes they may. But understand, you're there with them. They're not missing you. So the idea is they may show up now and then to remind you that it is only a portion of your spirit in the spirit realm that thinks it's not in the spirit realm anymore. Because that's all physical reality is. It's a projection of your consciousness. It's an illusion for a specific purpose of experiencing yourself in a certain way so that you can forget that you're a spirit, forget what you know, so that you can learn new things and discover new perspectives of yourself so you can change and grow in a very specific way. That is how creation expands. The structure of existence never changes. It is what it is. But your experience of it, your relationship to it, your perspective of it constantly changes. That is how creation grows. So the idea is you are experiencing physical reality and you are learning new perspectives, new discoveries of yourself from new points of view, allowing creation to expand in that way, in its relationship to itself, through all of you, through all of us, through all that is. And that experience is precious because it allows you to experience the process of change, the idea of growth, the idea of discovery, the idea of newness. And that is a precious gift. So, now, how are you actually doing that in physical reality? Well, as I said, you all assume you have a single timeline that goes from your past to your future. In fact, what you're doing is this. You are scanning all of the frames of reference of all the parallel realities that are relevant for the theme that you chose to explore in this life. And you are drawing down and plugging in and unplugging from and connecting to and disconnecting from all the frames and parallel realities that are relevant for this theme. You are constructing, literally, moment to moment, billions of times per second, constructing what appears to be a single timeline made up of frames, one after the other in a certain order, from thousands of parallel reality connections. You are doing this all the time automatically. When you have an inspiration, oh, I just thought of this. It may be coming from a parallel reality person that you're plugging into that is having that experience. And therefore you can get the inspiration because their experience in that particular reality is relevant for the theme you chose to explore in this reality, in this timeline. You're constantly merging with timelines to build the timeline that is relevant to your theme as they are doing with you, drawing upon your experiences, your information to construct their timelines. All of this going on at the same time. That's how powerful you are. You are a multidimensional being. This idea of your physical self is but a fraction of a fragment of what you actually are, of what your greater self actually is. Your soul is multidimensional. The idea that you have created this experience you call physical reality is magical. Some civilizations that are non-physical, some collectives, interdimensional, non-physical beings, sometimes actually have a challenge even imagining how such a thing is possible that you do on a daily basis. They can't imagine limiting themselves in that way. This is why we often refer to you as the masters of limitation. Now, but here's the thing. In your process, you are going from being the masters of limitation to being the masters of limitation, so that you can master how you use the limitations you impose upon your consciousness in ways that will allow you to experience your growth in a fantastically magical way, so that you really start remembering that you're creating this physical reality experience by your collective and individual agreements, by the contracts you have with each other, to serve each other, to reflect to each other what it is you each need to know to become more aware of who you are through this process, to discover a new perspective of yourself and add that experience to your soul, to your greater being, to all that is, to source itself. Because you are all and we are all and everything is reflections and aspects of all that is, experiencing itself in all the ways that it can, in all the ways that it is. Nothing is by accident, it's all an orchestration. Synchronicity permeates everything you experience, whether you know it or not. This is all an orchestration. When you are walking down a street, all the people that you see walking down the street around you are not there by accident. It may be differing in degree of relevance as to what their presence means to you or what your presence means to them, but it's not an accident. You are there because you're serving to support the greater whole picture, to allow someone else or yourself to glean something from the experience of being there at that exact place, at that exact moment in time. The orchestration is amazing, precise, unerring. When you are stuck in one of your so-called traffic jams, it's not by accident that you're there. So take the time to look around. The people that are next to you in their automobiles are not there by accident. Again, it may not necessarily be that relevant for you at that moment, or maybe you are learning some lessons. Here's one example. Again, by being in that traffic jam and not moving forward very quickly, how do you know that 5 miles down the road, if you had been going at full speed, you wouldn't have gotten into an accident that killed you? You don't know. But what you do know is that there's a reason this is happening. And again, it may not necessarily have that much to do with you, but it has to do with you in your willingness to support someone in that grouping who does need to learn something from that experience. That's the willingness to serve that you all have on a higher level. Bring that willingness to serve down to earth, and you will be served as well. As you serve, you are served. It's just like what we have said by analogy. Each and every one of you is like a little puzzle piece. And when you all fit together, you create the big puzzle picture that supports all of the pieces within it as the pieces support the whole. If you are willing to be the puzzle piece the way you were intended to be shaped, the natural shape you are, and not trying to be a different shape that you are not, you will fit with all the other shapes willing to be themselves, and you will create a harmonious whole. Remember, unity and harmony are not the product of being homogeneous. Unity and harmony are the product of validating the differences that each of you beautifully are, so that all the differences fit together and create the whole picture. Diversity is the key. So the idea in being diverse as beings, in drawing from the diversity of multiple parallel dimensions of experience and reality to create your path in this life, is what's going on all the time. You are the product of infinite diversity every single moment. Billions of times per second are you redefining yourself. Literally billions of times per second are you going back to zero. Whatever the definition is in the next moment is what your reality is, changing the future and the past. Every single moment, billions of times per second. You are that free to go to zero and redefine yourself every moment. When you collectively gather and you have an agreement that you are in this powerful electromagnetic vortex that can act as an amplifier and a reflector and a magnifier for the energies that you bring into it, you have to understand, based on what we're telling you now, yes, in a sense, you can say, well, yes, Sedona is a vortex. You are the vortex. You are creating the energy. It is representative of your collective agreement about what you're truly capable of. What you're truly capable of creating with each other by serving each other and reflecting to each other what you truly need. There's that word again. What you truly need to be yourselves, to have a life of fulfillment and a life of joy. You deserve it. You're worth it. Do remember, all of you are worthy by the fact that you exist, because creation doesn't make mistakes. And if you exist, that means you're worthy of existence. It means creation needs you to exist for it to be all that it is. Those of you who might have experienced the idea of believing in your lack of worth, you're arguing with creation, and you will never win that argument because you cannot stop existing. So, don't keep pounding your head against the wall. I'm unworthy, I'm not deserving. Because creation will never acknowledge that. Ever. You cannot stop existing. Existence is your natural state. There is no room in non-existence for anything that exists. Non-existence is already full of all the things that will never exist. I'll put it another way. Listen carefully to the definition. Non-existence is its quality. That means non-existence doesn't exist. Existence exists. Non-existence doesn't exist. That's its primary quality, to not exist. So there's nowhere for you to go. You may change your form, but you cannot stop existing. That is your natural quality. It's the quality of existence itself. And what you call, what you experience as unconditional love is just your way of recognizing the actual frequency of existence. That's its core frequency, what you call unconditional love and support. You are constantly unconditionally supported by existence in whatever way you say is true for you. Fear-based, you're supported in it. Joy-based, you're supported in it. Because the support is what? Unconditional. Look that up in your dictionaries. It means no condition, none, zero. What you say goes. It's in your control. It's in your hands. Your greatest power is the freedom to choose. So choose who it is you prefer to be. Act in the way you prefer to act. Be the living example for others, to give them the option, the choice, the opportunity to see that there may be a more joyful way to live. It doesn't mean they have to buy into it. It doesn't mean they have to match your frequency. But at least give them the choice. Maybe someday they will remember the living example you provided and go, oh, I get it now. I can apply that in my life. Not that they have to. Again, remember, whatever you share when it's appropriate to share, whatever someone else does with that is none of your business. Because you don't know their path. You don't know what they have determined they need to experience to get where they're going. But just give them the option. Give them the choice. Let them decide when and where and how to use it. Remember, there's no rush. There's no hurry. You're all eternal, infinite beings. No hurry. Somewhere, somehow, somewhen, you'll get it. You don't have to get it now, but you can choose to. It's up to you. I guarantee you that when you do, your lives will be a lot smoother, a lot more joyful, a lot more creative, a lot more loving, and a lot more serving of all that is, that allows all that is to reflect that service back to you. So, the parallel realities that you constantly connect into, the other dimensions you become aware of, the other versions of your greater being that are living out their lives along with you simultaneously, side by side or overlapping, if you wish to put it that way, are there for you to mine as you need to, as they give to you and they serve you and you serve them by providing them more experience, more information, more energy, so they can draw from you what they need as you draw from them what you need. So we're talking about service across multiple realities. Service across multiple dimensions is your